I'm Morgan, and I'm going to be talking about how childhood affects adulthood. So the three main topics that I'll be focusing on are parents divorcing, child abuse, and cyberbullying, and I'll specifically be looking at how severe the trauma can affect them later in life. So I actually found this quote after I finished most of my research for the topic, and I thought it summarized my findings very well. So, any dysfunction, trauma, or abuse you experience in childhood affects you into adulthood. No one can escape from it. It's like having an umbrella in a heavy rainstorm. No matter how big your umbrella is, some part of you is going to get wet. So basically, if a person experiences trauma during their young ages, no matter the severity, some part of that, whether it's small or big, ends up affecting them in the long run. So I found that the Overstory by Richard Powers connected to my question of how childhood affects adulthood. And this novel from the stimulus packet describes the growth of a chestnut tree over generations. And in the end of the writing, it describes how its memories and stories will forever be written into its rings. And this quote was actually what gave me the inspiration and basis for my research question. And I was able to relate the chestnut tree to the idea that just as a tree contains rings in its trunk that have been there since birth, adults carry the memories and experiences that they've had since they were children. And sadly, not all of those experiences are good ones. And so essentially the exposure to encounters that are devastating and damaging can have long-term effects and affect a child's brain and body development. So my first topic is parents divorcing. So during a divorce, there are many factors that could be straining on children and lead to them not having a normal childhood. And for example, half of life's lessons are lost. So kids are extremely impressionable and vulnerable to the outside world at young ages. And for example, an adult who went through his parents getting divorced writes that he didn't learn how to maintain household finances, cook, clean, or manage a house, car, or his medical care. And children can find that they are often deprived of the necessary knowledge of how to live on their own. And so there's also extra responsibilities. So when one parent's not as involved in the household, kids often have to get jobs at younger ages, and also they have a bigger responsibility in taking care of their siblings, especially kids who are older. And this can mean that they grow up too fast and faster than they should. And there's also extreme stress and pressure that can put kids at a higher risk of psychological and social problems in their adult life. And it can also lead to breathing problems like asthma, obesity, overweight, and the relationships that they have in their adult life can be affected by their parents' divorce, like who they marry or whether they marry. And my second perspective is child abuse. So children who experience abuse don't know any better and have no idea that this is not how they should be treated. So when this happens, they can grow up thinking that it's the correct way to be treated and to treat others, which just ends up disturbing a lot of their relationships that they have later in life. So there's a lot of different effects from child abuse. Two of the main ones are PTSD and ADHD. So psychologists consider flashbacks to be a symptom of PTSD and from the long time abuse, both physically and mentally. So there can also be lashing out, such as aggression or violence towards others. And then there's ADHD, and 20% of children who have ADHD have it because of trauma and not because of other genetics or other reasons. And so these types of abuse on children can lead to them being aggressive or violent towards other people, and that violence can also lead to them having depression later in life or abusing drugs. And my last perspective is cyberbullying. So, according to the Cyberbullying Research Center, nearly 20% of cyberbullying victims report having suicidal thoughts. Several high-profile suicides have been blamed on cyberbullying. So, self-harm is proven to be a common action derived from being bullied, and it can be the first step to leading to a possibly fatal situation. And in terms of cyberbullying, depression is extremely common. So, for example, it can affect their social lives, and they can have a harder time getting along with people, and they can also have trust issues, and they're likely to abuse drugs and alcohol earlier than they would if they weren't being cyberbullied. And schools tend to do very little about a situation, and even if they try to provide a solution, they're usually not beneficial or suitable to the actual situation. This can be because cyberbullying is very difficult to address, having it on the internet, so you can't really find out who is bullying someone else. But overall, cyberbullying can have extreme long-term effects with self-esteem, drug and alcohol abuse, adult relationships, and overall mental state. So my solution to this problem is just to keep people informed. So I think it's really important that people are informed that the basic foundation of a person's whole life is in their childhood, and how severe the situation can get when children are deprived of the resources that are necessary to them growing up. And there's really no quick fix to the obstacles that one's earlier life has created. Because when children grow up in an unstable, abusive, or degrading environment, they're taught all the wrong things that can end up putting them down the wrong path. So I think it's just vital that parents and guardians understand that their actions can influence their children's actions and decisions. So, yeah. Thank you.
Morgan, what information did you need that you weren't able to find or locate?
I would have liked to have more statistics on like the actual outcomes, because I couldn't find a lot of statistics. And I was looking for more specifically, like more information on child abuse, because I wasn't like able to find a lot of information on that, and so I would have liked to have more of like a range of what the actual issues that came out of that were, instead of just like PTSD and ADHD, and kind of like expand on that idea.
And what might be the real world implications or consequences of your findings?
Well, I think what I learned from my findings, like the biggest thing that I learned was that there isn't much that like people are really doing about the situation. Like you can try to do stuff about it, but in the long term, like there's no solution. Like you can't really tell a parent what to do or how to parent their child. So I think like real world implications, I think that I think that it's important that like to keep people informed. I think that my findings were, I wanted people to be informed of the actual issues of it, and that's kind of why I chose this topic, because I kind of knew that there wasn't really a solution to the whole thing, but just to help people understand how it can actually affect a child in the long term.
Yes. Thank you.